making a dish which I have been regularly making, and this sort of helps me balance my metabolic processes without there being the excesses. It's kind of what I call as the meristematic diet. One dish which is better eaten than not. So just check this out. The thing about this dish is it uses no oil. Could have water, yeah, depending. So I'm just using a earthen pot. It's black, and I'm warming it up. I've added some hing, and I've slightly caramelized it. I added hing because it is it is a kind of resin from a tree, and I've added that because I'm not adding garlic in this. I normally would add garlic. I'm not using garlic. So hing kind of adds a different flavor. And then I've added some tomatoes in flakes. The thing is, while I'm making this, I'm paying attention to the warmth and softness and sense of relaxation in my chest. As my chest is moving, paying attention to how my chest is moving, but also how, if I can, I'm paying attention to the beat of my heart, my lungs, and I call it as the life beat, which is what I'm calling as movementless yoga. So that adds a different quality tone to my hands, to my relationship with what I'm touching. For example, the tomatoes, the onions, the different things, ingredients I'm using. So I'm working with the natural elements, the earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space, of my own ingredient, of my body as a hand, yeah, so to speak, as an instrument of care. And then the food that I'm eating is also nurturing. So the earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space elements of, say, the vessel I'm using, the different ingredients. So there's a difference in how the dish is being made. Now I've added some broccoli, some cauliflower, some these brinjals. I'll show an uncut one, and I'm kind of carrots, yeah, and I'm just sauteing them. Again, I've not added any masalas yet. I've not added any salt, any sugar, no oil. This helps to cleanse your palate, for one thing, and sensitize your mouth, your taste buds. The earth, water, fire, spirit, space, that's also part of your mouth. To earth, water, fire, spirit, space, to the different elements, the different ingredients. So you are more sensitized to kind of the raw, because I'm slightly using heat. It's at a warm temperature, so it's not hot. So the flavors kind of just come alive, yeah. So every food ingredient has salt, some form of mercury, in the sense the liquid kind of a substance, yeah, fluid substance, and it also has earth. Let's just say vata, pitta, kapha, yeah, or salt, mercury, and sulfur. So there's some form of heat or some form of a volatile substance, yeah. That's part of every living ingredient, yeah. So with these vegetables, I'm working with the natural elements to sensitize my palate, but it's also good to cleanse your palate, so to speak, for the fine aspects of life, for the raw matter, more closer to the raw matter. So then when you're eating different ingredients, say a cooked dish, different kinds of curries or bakes, you're more likely to appreciate them than find fault, than to complain. So it's not just about finding fault, but it's also your critical appreciation. Now there may be ingredients here which may not be chemically complementary. There could be little opposites here, but you're more sensitive to the different ingredients there is. Some are complementary opposites, some are matching, but your taste buds are more awake. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Add some water, about half a cup. The thing is, water has memory, but it's also having a certain substance which gets better from what has gone into this pot. how this pot has come together. So water holds that information, but it also improves the content. If there's any imbalance, water helps to balance imbalances. Water is also a universal solvent. So if there's any clashes, that also has a substance from which to come to a more homogeneity, harmony. Harmony comes from my paying attention to my chest, my heartbeat, lung beat, life beat, where when there is a harmony between my own body and the ingredients, what I'm doing, that's when the elements are more in a harmony, in a kind of dance, in a music. Um, that's a fine weave between, let's just say, the Jivatma, Paramatma, the microcosm, macrocosm, in that sense, the subtle and the gross. Yeah. Now I've added some mushrooms and some chili powder, which is again not salt, but it's more. The thing is, you can add flakes of chili. Yeah, that would also go well with this, because here I don't have flakes of chili right now. I haven't made. The thing is, when you're powdering chili with the machine, it has a different texture. I call it runanubandha, which means when your hand is touching the ingredient, it has a different texture, a different composition than when a machine is making the powder. Yeah, so that changes the quality of the ingredients. It's like biochemistry. It's like physics, chemistry, math, and biology. Yeah. So how the ingredient tastes, the outcome, when you're touching with your hand and then making the flakes, is different from just powdering it. Yeah. I have then added 1 twig of curry patta, curry leaves, and about 3/4 of half a lemon juice, and I've turned on the heat. I turned off the heat. Yeah, and I've now plated what I've made, and I've added a bowl with curd, some cucumber, jeera, cumin seeds, chia seeds. So that could be variations. Sometimes I add this. Sometimes I just add sesame seeds, white sesame, black sesame. Sometimes. Or depending on what I feel like. Sometimes just raw, no salt, nothing added to it. So there are variations. The thing is, it's about normal, ordinary, harmonious living. Yeah. When we eat, the Vedas say, when we eat, all our breaths eat with us. So when we are cooking and we are paying attention to our breath, the natural rhythm of breathing, the beating of heart, you become more aware of it when you're paying attention to the natural rhythms of your own body, like how I call it as healthy natural breathing. Your heart has a breath. Your muscles have a breath by which they breathe. Your bones, your fascia, your tissues, yeah, your blood. There are cells in the blood. Yeah, they all have a certain breath by which we are alive. And when we are cooking, and we're paying attention to our own rhythms that makes our body our body. Yeah, what we touch has a certain effect, influence. You could say, you say water has memory. Yeah. Similarly, earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space, they all have a memory of their own. And how we touch, how we interact with them leaves an impression on them. So when you're cooking, those impressions, it's also called runanubandha, those impressions become part of what we cook, what we eat, how they combine to form ingredients. So we could be adding potatoes, tomatoes, but there's something else also becoming part of what we're cooking, what we're eating. Yeah? Which is why human beings are more than just artificial intelligence. Yeah? We're not just robots. In the sense, we sometimes mechanically do things. Our thought is somewhere, we're just doing our stuff. But when we are eating, eating, and mindfulness is also about you paying attention to the rhythms that's your own body. You're mindful of the rhythms that forms your body, which is in interaction with the dish you're eating, people around you, the objects you're touching, you're sitting on, the room that you are spaced in. When you eat, all your breaths eat with you. When you're mindful of the breaths, I call it lung beat, heartbeat, life beat. They're all different rhythms. Heart also has a beat, has a rhythm. So I tend to call it as me, and me. Little me, big me, and my world. Yeah, so you could say Advaita, Dvaita, and Vishishtadvaita. Me, my. Yeah, me, little me, big me, and my world. Yeah, there is a certain authenticity, there's a certain truthfulness, at least with yourself. And then over time, as you're continuing to practice this, there's a certain truthfulness with which you interact with people around you, with yourself, with the objects you touch. This is also how, over time, that's called as a Midas touch, where you are ennobling into a finer metal, METTLE. Yeah, your substance is moving from just being crude to like the periodic table. Periodically, as you're one day, one moment, as you're being mindful with yourself, with how you interact with the objects you interact with, what your thoughts, for example. Over time, you become a finer person because your different factions more come together. That's also yoga. So this is some bit of what I call as meristematic diet. When I'm eating this, what I've put on my plate, cooking, I continue to be mindful of my own body. Yeah. So that adds a different layer of appreciation, a different ingredient in the dish while I'm eating, which may not have been possible to be there because cooking has a different set of rhythms, actions. So, how my body behaves while cooking is different from how my body behaves while eating. Yeah, so this is food for thought. Yeah, and I've left the background raw because there's a lot of impressions, there's a lot of prejudices about what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is perfect, what is imperfect. But sometimes we don't see the natural, normal, ordinary harmony that's already there, which in what may seem chaotic, because chaos is also unknown order. There is a certain order here, even in our own body. So when you're paying attention to, say, for example, you're in the traffic and you're paying attention to different sounds, it may seem out of order, but there's a certain rhythm, there's certain music that you can hear even while you're in the traffic. And if you can hear that when you're in your room having your meal, there could be a lot of people talking. There are many rhythms around, but the music of life continues to be in your awareness because you are aware, you're in the silence, stillness, and nothing of the matter. In the sense, when you can be in that appreciation of the different sounds, different rhythms, and see that there is a certain order in all of this, your music and dance with life is more harmonious, and health continues to keep improving. And that's also meristematic diet. Even when you're not eating food per se, even when you're listening to sounds, when you're interacting with things, your life is getting more harmonious. Your health is getting harmonious. Your relationship between the microcosm that's you and the macrocosm is getting more harmonious. That's what I call as meristematic diet. There's further to it, but this is something to think about. This is more like an intro. Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you so much for your interest. I hope this has been of value to you. Do let me know if there's any doubts, any questions, and I'll be glad to clarify. Thank you. Now, I've kind of eaten up a lot of it, but the thing is, what is not so obvious, what I forgot to kind of mention, is I'm eating with chopsticks and with a wooden spoon. Yeah, but that's one of the utensils I tend to use. Why is this important? Chopsticks have you pay attention to details. You got to use your fingers in a particular precision, a certain way, to be able to pick up one ingredient. Yeah. Point is, there's a certain history to how the chopsticks were formed. Yeah. It also represents, in a way, let's just say your little me and big me, where you need to keep it together between your little me and big me, microcosm, macrocosm, masculine, feminine, complementary opposites, to be able to work harmoniously. There's a delicate and there's also the gross, substantial. Yeah. So there's a certain fine balance that also becomes able to be practiced when you're using a chopstick. And then, of course, you can eat with your hands, spoon, fork, you have all of this. But try this out. Also, while you're eating, many other things also become possible. So it forms one wholesome meal. Yeah. Food for thought.